Perfect. Hello, everyone. Welcome to talk number 12 of MBA Tribe. And this time around, we have a session on GMAT Focus Edition. As you all know, that the classic edition of GMAT that had been going on for all these years, that has been phased out, and we have the Focus Edition now. And just to talk about his journey with GMAT Focus Edition and how he aged it brilliantly, we have with us Garvit Agarwal, who scored a 755 on his Focus Edition GMAT. So, welcome, Garvit. And I would also like to welcome Akshay, my co host. I guess all of you know him by now. Yeah, Akshay, any opening remarks before we pass on the mic to Garvit?
Yeah, I think it's been a while since we've met everyone and had our session. Being our first session this year, we're very excited and also like a rest in peace to the classic GMAT after uh, a record-breaking how many years it's been running for. With the new edition coming in, we're really excited to have Garvit, and it's going to be a very, very insightful session. So thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Right. So, Garvit, could you just quickly introduce yourself and then maybe talk about your GMAT journey a bit?
Yeah. Hi guys, Garvit here. I work as a product operations manager for Converse AI. It's a voice AI company. And before that, I worked with Byju's for 7 years almost. Yeah. So post that, I decided that I believe it's time for me to do an MBA to understand the basic nuances of each field, which will help me grow up the ladder sooner than what it would take in the normal terms. So that is when I realized about GMAT, did some research, found out what the sections are, and just went with it. I gave the first cold mock. To be honest, that was the mock which I gave. I did not even know that each question would have 5 options. I was as clueless about it. And then from there, from giving that cold mock to understanding what are the gaps, how should I go about it, it has been a wonderful journey. So,
Great.
Kashif, yeah,
So, yeah. So Garvit, you switched from the classic mock to the classic GMAT to the focus version, right? Uh,
correct.
could you just tell everyone about how the transition has been? Because I'm sure there are a lot of folks out here who have been preparing for the classic GMAT and because of various circumstances are now going for focus. So, and this is a common concern that how relevant the preparation would be. So, could you just talk a little about that?
Sure. So I did give my classic GMAT. I gave it twice, and in both the attempts, my score was drastically brought down by sentence correction. And I knew that sticking to certain rules or whatever is the preparation is not something that is going to help me out. Because if I spot an error, if I believe that that is an error, then I get stuck to it and I might miss out another glaring error altogether. So that is why I decided that sentence correction is not for me. And by then, GMAT had already announced that they will be releasing with Focus edition, which would be deprived of sentence correction. So I decided that I have to give it a shot. And after giving two classics, I realized that, okay, it's time for focus. And I gave my first focus attempt on its inaugural day on 7th of November. So I knew that verbal has not predominantly changed, like RC and CRs are still the same. So there was not much to do over there because you already know what is there. What additional thing was there is IR. So IR basically had converted to data insights where you would have data sufficiency as well as IR questions, and now they would be scoreable. So it became more challenging to understand how do you score points in DI. I believe that is also one of the primary concerns that most aspirants today for focus have. Like, how do you go about DI? So it was about understanding what DI is, what you should do about it, got the OG, plugged in the gaps, gave a cold mock first, understood what do I need to do, and then after that it was just doing quality questions, quality practice, and analyzing those. So that is how I went about it.
Right. So, as per your entire, considering you started from then, or much before that, even with your previous attempts? Like, what was that timeline from the beginning in terms of, just outlining what you need for time management and just preparing like that preparation plan? How did you go about fine-tuning that with time?
So I think I started my prep sometime in April last year, April 2023. And then after just practicing regularly. So I started with untimed practice, right? That's how you go about it. So I knew that the first round applications are in September, right? So I knew that by September it might be slightly tedious. So I was open to having a shot in R2 as well. So by that, I knew that somehow I have to have my attempt clear by September. So because of that, at least I had to give my first attempt by July. So then I started backtracking it that, okay, if I've started my preparation in April and if I have to give my first attempt in July, it means I have April, May, June, 3 months. In 3 months, how do I go about it? The first month entirely was understanding the concept, understanding what GMAT is. And then after that, doing untimed practice. While doing untimed practice, my focus was more on accuracy, understanding whether I'm able to understand the question, whether I'm able to grasp what it is asking, whether I am understanding the options, especially in verbal, right? Because in quant, it's more about you solve the question, whether you are able to get the right answer or not. So that is how I
Right.
went about it, right? The first month was more about understanding GMAT, how GMAT thinks, what is the GMAT approach. Post that, the next month was more about doing timed practice, where I started doing I started noticing that, okay, in quant, even if it was untimed, I had a good timing in that. So timed practice is where I focus more on verbal. While doing that, I realized that it is CR and SC which were taking a lot of time for me, and I had to bring that down because your RC can consume some time if the passage is too lengthy or if it's too convoluted to understand, right? And I think there were 36 questions for 65 minutes, right? So less than 1 minute 48 seconds to be precise, right, for each question. So
Mhm.
it had to balance out one way or the other, and there were around 14 questions from sentence correction, again 13 14 questions from RC. So according to that, the timing was more important. So initially I would just practice on sentence correction and CR, and then over the period of the month, right, I started including other components as well. So how it went from just practicing CR and RC in the first week of the second month, by the end of the month, I was doing all the sections. And then eventually, the last month was more about doing only the questions, the number of questions that would be in your exam. So I would do around 21, uh, 31, yeah, in quant 31 questions, right? So 31 questions where around 15 to 18 questions would be from PS and the rest would be from DS. So I would time it like that and do the division like that and accordingly do those questions. Once that was done, I was able to understand where is it that I need to plug my gaps. Where is it that I'm spending more time now? Because when you do time practice, you can utilize your time that you have saved in one component or one question in another. So while doing that, I felt that, okay, maybe now it's time for me to take another mock. And then once I started taking mocks, it made it more clear that where is the gap that lies. And yeah, that was it.
Perfect. Perfect.
Great. That's actually quite insightful, Gurvit. And could you also talk a little about, going about GMAT prep along with a full-time job? Because that is something also like, overall time management in terms of how to go about the preparation is something we struggle with. So what are your
Correct.
views on that?
So time management, right? Uh, Everybody has 24 hours in the day, to be honest, right? So with your job, right, you need to figure out how many hours you can give in a week to GMAT. It's not about you do it consistently every day. It's also not about that you just sit on Saturday, Sunday and you spend 20 hours or 16 hours what you've dedicated, right? You go about it. It's okay to take pause in between, but ensure that there is some consistency, some flow to what you are doing. And along with your full-time job, right? It's about either you find your time either before the day starts or after your shift has ended, right? And that is how you ensure that you block that period consistently. And over that, you build that habit that, okay, this is when I feel fresh. This is when I am able to do questions. I'm able to do that. So for me, what worked was since I work in Pacific time zone, though I stay in Bangalore, India, but I work in Pacific time zone. So that basically means that my working hours are in the night. So I would end my work at 6:30 or 7:30 in the morning, depending on daylight savings. And after that, I would start my preparation around 8 o'clock. And from 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock, I would, without any disturbance, right, with full concentration, I would be like, yeah, this is my time. This is where I need to prepare. Even like I would not sleep at that time. Even if it on a day when I wanted to take a break, right, I would not take a sleep at that time, because that is what I wanted to be consistent. That okay, this is the time when I'm able to focus on the prep. This is the time when I'm able to focus on that content, understand it. So make sure that you make a timetable and try to follow as much as you can. It's not about being strict or being adhering to it with extreme rigidity. Be flexible, but ensure that flexibility does not take over. So yeah.
I agree. I think, yeah, that's fair. That finding that fine line, and being able to balance is something I think
Correct.
is just hard for people. It was hard for me as well, so I get what you mean. So since you touched upon this earlier about the time management, let's dive a little deeper into that, regarding each section. And considering the number of sections were reduced in this new exam, what was your overall strategy for each of these individual sections? What were you strong at? What were you weak at? How did you compensate that as you went around preparing?
So for focus, right, we know that each section we have 45 minutes. And the best part about focus is it gives you the option to go back and alter any answer choice or any question that you want. While doing that, I realized that if I can save up at least 5 minutes to review every question that I've attempted, that would make me assured of whether I attended it correctly or not. And with those 5 minutes extra, right, it made uh, a liberty that every individual would have, that you would not want to stuck up on one particular question, right? You could let it go. You can come back to it at the end. So I would always assume for me that each section is only for 40 minutes. The rest 5 minutes are always dedicated for review. It would slightly differ, but yeah, I would take it as a benchmark that this is what I want to achieve. So for verbal, right, I was pretty quick with RC. So it was about you need to understand what you're strong at and where do you need to focus. So I knew that in verbal, RC was my strength. I could quickly navigate through the passage, understand the tonality, understand the change in the tone, understand what could be the traps. While you're reading a passage, right? If you have done enough practice, you would know what are the traps or what could be the question that could be asked from it. So when you do an RC, you know that there is no additional information outside of the passage that would be ever asked. In CR, that would be required because it would involve a lot of pre-thinking and other pieces, right? But RC, I was able to solve it very quickly. Like for 4 questions or so, it would take me 3.5, 4 minutes, like that. So I knew that CR would take a lot of time. So accordingly, I would manage my time like that. So this is how it went for verbal. For quant, it was pretty straightforward, right? 21 questions. I wanted to do it in 40 minutes, each question, not more than 2 minutes. And I would keep a track of it every 5 questions or so. I would not be like, okay, every question has to be done in 2 minutes, but every 5 questions should be done in 10 minutes. Now, that is where you'll be able to give yourself some leeway, right? Because there could be a question that could get 3 minutes, that it could be a question that you'll be able to solve it very quickly. So it's not about each question in 2 minutes, but an average should be in 2 minutes. So that is how it went for quant. For DI, I knew again the same thing, right? You have 20 questions and 40 minutes. So again, each question 2 minutes. But over there, I gave myself some leeway that I would do all the three sections where basically there are four splits of 5 questions, right? In which I would know that there would be one section which would have an MSR. So that particular MSR would require a lot more time. So the other three set of 5 questions should be done in less than 10 minutes, and the MSR one can take slightly more. So it was more about balancing that and keeping myself on track. If I knew that a particular question is taking longer time, it's better to let it go and come back to it at the end. And again, right, when you do your time practice, you habituate yourself by knowing what is a 2 minute timer. You don't always have to look at the clock and see that whether you have spent 2 minutes or more than that. You would easily know if you're in the ballpark of 2 minutes. So whether this question can be solved in another 15, 20, 30 seconds, or would it take much more time? If it takes much more time, it's better to let go of it at that particular point of time. So yeah, this was it for each section. This was the time management. So time practice helps you know how do you attempt it.
Awesome. Thank
Great.
you.
And so this next question has actually been, asked by a lot of attendees when they were registering, which is like, if you took any coaching or were you working with a tutor, and what is actually the material that you used for your preparation across all the sections?
Okay. So I did take coaching for classic GMAT, and it was predominantly around sentence correction. And I was given a set of rules, some 36, 37 rules, and asked to follow it. And then I was also given an order of rules that you have to look at this error first, and then this error, this error. It did not turn out well for me, and that's why I had to shift to focus. So yeah, I did take coaching, but it was around sentence correction, and that was it. I did not go through any other tutor or anything else apart from that. As for the material that I have used, I have already answered this numerous times. I have only worked with OG questions, nothing apart from it, not even quant. For quant, people have mentioned, and there are a lot of posts that you would find that the OG quant is much easier than the quant that is asked. But OG quant, for me, it was sufficient. For others who would want to try it, I would suggest you can probably look on GMAT Club for questions with higher difficulty, non-OG, if you'd want to try that. But OG questions, I believe, are more than enough. I did the entire OG 10, OG 11, OG 22, and the GFE OG. These were the ones that I did entirely. And from 10 and 11 had an overlap, 22 and 23 had an overlap. So you could assume that the number of questions that I did were equivalent to 2.5 OGs. Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Wow, that's great. And just a follow-up question on that, someone asked that since you're shifting from GMAT Classic to Focus, so how do you get new questions to practice? Because I believe the OG questions are same in Focus apart from the DI section.
Correct. So you don't have to look out for new questions, right? Except for DI, nothing else has changed. RC, there are already over 600 passages that are available for OG, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think that if you have solved all 600, chances would be extremely slim that you would not understand what GMAT is trying to test you on it. So OG questions, except for DI, are sufficient. You don't even have to go for purchasing the Focus OG, to be honest. I have mentioned it numerous times that if you have 22 OG, it's more than enough. Just purchase the DI OG, and that would help you sail your boat.
Perfect. Sounds good.
So this question is a natural extension of the previous question, which is about the mocks.
Mhm.
What sort of mocks did you take, and how did you go about analyzing your mock once you took one?
Got it. So mocks, again, like I restricted myself to OG questions. I only did official mocks, and official mocks, every mock has two attempts. Like, I understand that some people try to uh, share it with others, but I believe like if you can purchase even a single mock, you can utilize it twice instead of purchasing two mocks. The number of questions that overlap is none. At least in Focus, there's no overlap at all. So you can just purchase Focus mock 3 and do it twice. You can just purchase Focus Mock 3 and 4 and do it 4 times. So for both Classic and Focus, I have only done OG mocks, and I've done all of them twice, except for Focus Mock 6, which I've only attempted once. But yeah, it was about only doing official mocks because that is the closest that comes to the scoring. That is the closest that comes to the algorithm of how the next question will be presented depending on how you have answered the previous one. As for the analysis, I kept it pretty simple. It was about knowing what were the mistakes that I made, what were the gaps in it. During my first classic attempt, right, I did a glaring mistake. Whenever I would do mock, I would see a question that I've attempted wrong, and I would be like, okay, yeah, array, shit, I missed this. This is what I could have done. Yeah, I know this. And I would be like, yeah, I know this. This was a silly error. But after the first attempt was done, I realized that, okay, that was not the way to go about it. After that, whenever there was a mistake, I would make an error log of it, understand what was that error, how did I make that an error if I already know about it. And I would categorize each error as whether I guessed that particular question and reached there, whether it was a mistake, a silly mistake, whether it was a new concept that I was unaware of. So basically, if I'm able to tag an error to these three, I would know what is the appropriate step that I need to take. If it was a silly error, I would try to do multiple questions regarding that concept to understand that whether I'm able to understand what the traps are, understand what was the mistake that I did. For questions where it was something that I was unknown of, I would first try to understand what was the concept behind it, read more about it, do some solved questions, look at the solutions, obviously, and then again, just practice a few questions and then try them, see whether I'm able to get it. If not, I would not struggle with it because in GMAT, you don't have to get every question right. My target score was not 755, to be honest. I would have been very happy with a 695 or a 705. So I was aiming for that, reach 755, and it, I don't know how that happened, but yeah, it was more about me knowing where I wanted to be. And it was that, again, 2 cents, right? Just my 2 cents that I would want to add is do not struggle with GMAT, make it your friend. If you come across a question or a challenge that you're not able to solve, do not take it as a setback. Don't feel that, boss, I have just failed and this is miserable, blah, blah, blah. I see people go into a spiral. I've talked to some aspirants, they're like, I don't know this. It's very, it's a topic that GMAT asks a lot from this, that. Do not go into that. Take it as a learning curve, as an opportunity that, okay, boss, this is something that I don't know. Is it crucial for me to know? Is it critical? Can I let go of it? If not, okay, let me see how can I go about it. So does this help?
Absolutely.
Yeah, just another thing, right? I for any classic mock or GMA like focus mock, right? I would also maintain in that error log, right? It was basically a sheet where I would just note down what kind of a question it was, what kind of an error it was, and a remark next to it where I would basically say that okay, this was a thing that I missed, blah blah blah. And instead of every time referring the mb.com and going to that particular question, I could just open that sheet and analyze the 4 5 tests that I have taken in one go and understand what is it that I need to work on. So if people are interested, you can let me know. I can share that sheet with you, or I can show that sheet if anybody's interested.
I think that's absolutely like, just to add on to that, even I fully agree with him. I think the error log plays such an important role, so underrated, that during the preparation phase, most of them have this tendency to sort of, this FOMO to do as many questions as they can, where they do not take the time and effort to populate their error log, to basically just keep a track of how exactly they are thinking and where they're going wrong. And having this just makes it so much easier to compile everything in one place.
Yeah.
And the number of questions you will be required to solve drops like significantly, yet your quality of prep goes
Yeah.
up exponentially.
True. It gives you a snapshot, right? That oh, you could just go through it and see your trend, right? What is the trend? Like, okay, in mock one, I attempted these many CR wrong. And out of these, two were assumption, or 50% of them were assumption. In the next one, though, the number of CR that I attempted wrong were less, but both of them were assumption, right? So you could understand from it by a trend that, okay, this is where I consistently perform badly, or this is where I need to focus more on. So it's just about finding those trends, right? Finding that pattern.
Exactly, exactly. That's a great point. Mhm. Thank you.
So, yes, Garvit, there's a huge demand for the sheet, and some people have suggested that you can just share it on the group. So maybe after the call, you can share it with the larger GMAT group. I'm sure it will help everyone. I've seen the sheet and it's actually good. So yeah. Moving on. And I think this is again a very important question that many people struggle with. That once you were, done with your prep, like what was your last month and last week strategy before the exam? Like, we have the 1 month before, 1 week before planning. So how did you go about that?
Okay. So like I said earlier, right, you have 12 mocks basically at your disposal, 12 official mocks, out of which I'm sure everybody would have taken at least one to understand where their base lies. And from there, you would have started your prep. So it's more about hedging your bets, right? You know, you have 12, 11 mocks left. Don't utilize more than 5 mocks. 5 mocks is more than enough for you to understand how to go about it. You need to save the rest of the mocks in case your attempt does not go well. That's what I did, right? I have 2 classic attempts and 2 focus attempts. And I had to save those mocks just to ensure that if it goes wrong, I need to have some official mocks where I can practice from and understand what are the gaps that are still present. So again, working backwards, right? Let's say you have your exam on 31st. You plan that on 30th, you would not do anything. You would not give any mock for sure. If possible, do not give a mock on 29th as well. Give it on 28th, and then at least give 3 days break between any mock. So 28th, you do it on 24th, then and then you do it on 20th. So you have 21st, 22nd, 23 as 3 days gap, and then 24th was there. So 20 again 3 days gap, 16 again 3 days gap. You have it on 12th. So this is how I would divide that. And in those 3 days, it was more about deep analysis. The analysis that I think I have also shared it in my post earlier on the group, that it's more about qualitative analysis where you understand each question in depth, even if you get it right or if you get it wrong. If you get it right, go on GMAT Club or ask your friends, ask other aspirants that you're in touch with that, hey, boss, this was my approach. Do you think that was right? It's more about knowing whether the approach that you used was correct or not. There are ways in which you could arrive at a particular question more faster or in a better way. So for CR, right, what would happen is I'm pretty sure that most of you would be stuck in 2 options, right? There would be last 2 options that would find very difficult to eliminate. So go through GMAT Club, ask others. You can also post it on the tribe, right? There are a lot of us who are very ready to help out, right? You ask them that these are the 2 options that I would be stuck with, or these are the 2 options that I am not able to go through. So understand from others' opinions, others' expertise, basically, not opinions, obviously, others' expertise, know what are the patterns that you need to observe. Once you do that, what you would find is there are obvious traps or pre-thinking that you could have done by which you could have eliminated an option choice. Now, once you understand that this is how GMAT functions or this is how GMAT thinks about a particular question, it would help you know what way you can eliminate an option choice. I many times I have reached the right answer by the wrong method or the long method. Wrong method was worse, but long method is more I would say more strict or it penalizes you more, right? Because it takes away time from other questions from you. So you need to understand what are the faster ways to know that, boss, this option is irrelevant or this option does not serve any purpose. This option is actually going in the opposite direction than what the question is asking. And again, I'm talking about CR and RC both over here. For quant, it's about just do the enough practice over there. And again, from mocks, you would know where it is you are going wrong. So again, coming back to the question, right? Utilize the gaps in between very effectively. Analyze your questions well. Understand, are there other ways, other approaches, how you could have solved that particular question. By that, you'd open yourself to different approaches that could help you solve any type of question. Does that help?
Oh, yes, definitely helps. And I would like to add to that ideally giving mocks in similar conditions, same time as your scheduled exam, that helps so much because when you go into the exam, you are a lot more calm, and that is, I think, easily a 20 points increase in your score, if not more. So
True.
giving mocks is, I think, the biggest, you know,
Yeah.
thing
So
you
yeah,
can do in your preparation.
I forgot to talk about it, right? You have to simulate the same environment as well, right? Not just the time. And like I said, that I would study from 8 to 11. And if you know, the classic was a 3 hour, 3.5 hour long paper, right? So in that also, the habit of studying or being awake from 8 to 11 ensured that I was in that zone mentally to take on that particular challenge. I would be able to just go through it, right? Because after the entire day has done, right? After the long working day, I have to be available for an exam. And being in that space, being in that zone helps you go through it very easily. So again, in the breaks, right? Well, what would happen is if you have gone through a particular exam and if you're taking a particular mock, right? Do not try to pause the mock in between. Do not try to take more breaks than what is available to you in the actual exam. So simulate it as much as you can. Understand there could be some challenges for which you would have to take a break or you would have to pause the exam in between, but try to avoid as many distractions as you can so that you're able to have that practice of sitting for those many hours, being concentrated for those many hours, and be in that particular mind and space to get things done. Yeah, thanks, Ashita, for pointing that out.
Yeah.
So now that we spoke about your preparation, so it's been a couple of months, you prepared, you've taken the mocks, and then finally we arrive on the D-Day. And this is the day of the exam. You woke up, and can you walk us through how that day went through, and what was your thought process during the exam, actual exam, and what was your strategy then?
Hmm. So again, for me, it was the same thing, right? I would just follow my regular pattern. It was, and then I would just keep yourself fresh, keep yourself hydrated, have ample amount of sleep, and do not worry about anything. Don't go through any last minute formula or last minute error log or something, right? Because it might backfire. If you're able to control it, well, good enough. But for me, I did not want to go down that circle again. And I just wanted to stay as focused as I could for focus, especially, right? For classic, I have done this that at the end minute, I am going through the AWS section and understanding how to go about it. But for focus, keep yourself as fresh as you can. And yeah, don't take it as a challenge, right? Get yourself acclimatized to where the set, if you're taking from a test center, right? Go to the test center on a day before to your exam, understand how much time it takes, how it is. If you're able to talk to people who have given it from the same test center, you might find them on this group, or you could ask them on Reddit or GMAT Club, right? You could find a particular review for that particular test center, understand how things are over there, what you should be prepared for. But just don't look into negatives, right? Because someone might have had a bad experience, but that does not resonate with everybody having a bad experience, right? So try to get all kinds of reviews, but don't let yourself be bothered by it. Talk to others, understand what needs to be done, stay as much calm as you can. And if like I have seen some people, they don't utilize their breaks at all during the exam. It totally depends on you, right? For me, I would definitely take a break. For classic, I would utilize both the breaks as much as I could. For focus, you just have one 10-minute break. I would utilize at least 9 minutes out of it. And that is because I would want to go back with the proper clarity and just get everything out that, okay, boss, I'm done with one section. And now I just need to tackle the rest of them. To add to that, right? One thing that I wanted to add is for your exam, right? Know what order you want to give your sections in. So for me, it was more about eating the frog first strategy, right? I would always attempt the thing that I found the most difficult. And in that particular fashion, I would go about it, right? So I would give verbal first. And after verbal, I would take a break because I would be like, boss, I'm done with halfway of the GMAT. To be honest, I would treat DI and quant as one and verbal as one another 50% section for me, right? And then after the break, I would know that, okay, this is something that I could do with because of the confidence, because of the prep and everything. And another thing is, right, if your first section is a weaker section, and if that goes bad, I believe that it helped me know that the next ones are section that I'm strong with, so I can somehow optimize it or balance it. But if the first section is somewhere where I'm strong and there's something went wrong over there, right? It would naturally discourage me that, boss, if the stronger one is something where I have performed poorly, what would happen to the overall exam performance? So this was what worked for me. But again, this is just my opinion. If you feel something else works for you, please try it in your mocks and go about it. Do not change anything from your mock on the D-Day.
That's great. That's great. Thank you.
All right. David, I think we'll now just open the floor for questions for all the attendees. So, I would request everyone just raise your hand if you want to ask a question. And we would request you to restrict to one question for now. And, if you have time, we'll just circle back to you so that, everyone gets the opportunity. I'll just unmute Sai Slikar. You can ask your question, please.
Hello, Garvit. First of all, congratulations for the score. It was really great. And I just found myself in the same situation as you. I have given 2 GMAT classic attempts. Right now, I just want to improve my score because I got a lot of waitlists from US colleges. So I just want to convert. So regarding the mocks, you said you have taken only official mocks, but that standard in the official mocks when it comes to the verbal is somewhat, lower when it comes to the actual GMAT. Is it the same case with focus, or is somehow I'm not able to comprehend that?
So yeah, in classic, even I felt that the mocks were not the accurate representation of how the exams were. But in focus, I
Yeah.
haven't felt that. Focus
Okay.
mocks are quite close to what the actual exam is.
Okay.
Except that there was my first attempt, right? The DI that was there in the mocks did not reciprocate on the actual exam. And it happened with a lot of other folks also. I connected with over Reddit. I found that a lot of them had the same experience. Probably, I believe it was the first week where they were just trying to weed out any tutors or experts who are trying to give it. I believe that could be the case. But yeah, in the second attempt and recently, I haven't found anyone who have said that the mocks are not the actual representation. The difficulty, everything matches how the exam would be.
Okay. Okay. What is the timeline that I can adopt right now? In how many weeks, like, is the best to do?
I believe that depends on how much time you're able to give and how much time you actually need, right? Maybe if you are able to take a cold mock, do that, understand what are the gaps that need to plug in, how much time it would take, reach out to folks on the tribe and see how much time you could invest in over a week or in a particular day, and then go about it. Or
Okay.
if you know by when you have to attempt the test, accordingly you decide how much time you will have to dedicate. So either you decide how much time you can give every day or decide when you want to give it, right?
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Garvit. If it pleases you, can you drop your LinkedIn profile in the chat so that if any case, if it's not trouble, so we will connect.
Yeah, I'll just share my LinkedIn on the GMAT tribe, and from there you can just connect with me if you want.
Thank you so much. All the best.
Thank you, folks.
Manasvi, you can go next.
Yeah, hey, hi Garvit.
Hi,
So
Manan.
interestingly, we both were in Byju's. I worked under you, I guess, if you remember.
Manasvi.
Hi, yeah,
Hey,
hello.
hi.
Yeah. So actually, I have given 4 exams. I have exhausted 4 exams of Classic Edition till now. I didn't get the score I really wanted. So now I will be transitioning and I'll give it in 25. The admit I'll go in 25 itself. So I just wanted to know, like from there, from a focus to transition from focus to from classic to focus, did you particularly give more time to DI and the new sections, or did you practice them all along? When you transitioned.
So it was more DI heavy because that is where I knew I wanted to work on. And so the ample time, right, that is there, that you have, right before the exam, that is what I invested in the sections that I was weak at. So it was heavily on DI and CR. And
Okay.
2 weeks or 3 weeks prior to that, I would look at all the sections while giving the mock. And after the mock, if I wanted to analyze if there was something that went wrong, I would look at similar questions. But do not over prepare, do not exhaust all the questions, right? Whatever question you are doing, understand it thoroughly, read through each option choice that is given, answers or the solution that is given, right? Why each particular option is incorrect, or why a particular question or why a particular option is correct, especially for verbal. Similarly for DI, right? Go through that, understand how it works, and that would help you. It's not about doing a lot of questions, but whatever question you do, understand that in and out.
Yeah, quality over quantity, right? Quality over quantity. Okay. Secondly, while you like transition, for instance, today you are doing DI. You're just doing DI for 3 days, or you pick up CR and RC and maybe other quant in between, or you just do DI कि हाँ मैं 3 दिन तक DI कर रहा हूँ, इसको मैं confident, I'll feel confident, then I'll move on to the other sections. So that is one more thing which I wanted to ask.
This is a personal preference. Okay. It depends on whether you want to tackle a particular situation head on and be done with it, or you want to ensure that while you are working on your difficult areas, you don't let go of the area that you are stronger in. For example, I knew my quant is stronger. I would ensure that there is no error that I can make in quant. Though I would focus more towards verbal, I would ensure that every question in the mock or whatever question I do time practice, there should be zero error in it. If there is an error, then I would believe that that is my weaker area. Never go off your stronger area, right? Optimize as much as you can for that. For the weaker one, it's okay even if you score less, right? But in your stronger one, even if you get more incorrect than what you anticipate, you have lost out on easy points that you could have gotten.
Right. Okay, cool. I get that. Thank you very much. The best.
Nishant, you can go next. And I would again request everyone to initially restrict to just one question, and we'll circle back to you if we have time.
Congrats on your score.
Thank you.
Yeah. So my question is specifically regarding quant. So you mentioned that you only followed the OG for solving the quant questions, despite you mentioned that some of the questions might be easier than the usual one. My question is how. So first question, my question is actually, did you ever solve mixed bag of questions for quant, like multiple chapters at once, or were they only chapter by chapter, and then you went on to do the mocks to kind of get the idea of mixed bag?
I always did it a mixed set of questions, right? Because that is where it gives you the closest simulation to the exam, right? Because these are retired GMAT questions. So when you do it in a mixed bag, you are keeping yourself open to others areas as well. Because other thing, what would happen is that let's say you are only doing probability. You would know that a particular question is supposed to be done using probability. If you're doing only the chapter permutations and combination, you know that you're only supposed to do it using that. Then there would happen is when you're doing a particular chapter, right? Let's say again probability. There would be a question that could be easily solved using permutations and combinations. But because you're doing that, you'll be going through the longer way. So it's about utilize the best choices that you could have and go about it. Unless until you are facing particular difficulty in a particular chapter, focus more towards that, but always try to keep a mixed bag of questions.
So how do you use to kind of mix those questions? Because I know the OG has chapter or section wise splits. How do you used to mix it? Like you used to mix it yourself, or
OG does not have chapter wise questions. OG has a mix of all the questions.
okay, I mean to say, like a set of questions and then followed by the next set.
No, only OG Advanced has that, right?
Okay,
Your-
I meant
regular
yeah.
OG has a mixed bag of questions throughout.
All right, yeah, okay. That answers my question. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Mukul, you can go next.
Hey Gavit, thanks for your time. So at a very surface level, can you please suggest the roadmap, let's say for the absolute beginners? I've started going through the OGs, like I'm going through quants piece right now. So at a surface level, if I have further maybe questions, I'll connect. Wouldn't like to, let's say, waste all of this time. At a surface level, what would be the roadmap?
Do you have a timeline in place for the exam?
Yeah, I'm trying to, let's say, crack it in next 3 months. I'm putting around 4 to 6 hours, let's say, every day to, varying every day. Yeah, anything between 4 to 6 hours every day.
Okay, got it. Well, what I would suggest is, what I did, right? I could just probably give that insight, right? The first 1 week or 2 week, I just cleared all the concepts for quant. And then after that, I solved an entire OG for quant. Once I was done with that, I understood verbal completely and solved the entire verbal. Once I was done with one OG for both, right? The next thing was I picked up another OG and solved both of them. And while doing this, again, it's more about analyzing, understanding what you are doing, how you are doing, whether the approach is correct or not. So surface level, again, untimed practice was what I did first after I understood the concept and solved an entire OG. And when I did both of them together, it would be more towards timed practice, right? So you should go about that, right?
Sure, that helps. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Kanya, I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. You can go next.
Yeah, that's okay. I just wanted to ask, when you first started your error log, did you ever get overwhelmed with how many errors you had? Did you ever get to a point where you decided you're making peace with concepts you don't understand? Like, how did you go about it without feeling overwhelmed by the amount of work that you had in front of you?
Again, I believe letting go of something is an option choice that you have, because you need to know if there are other areas where you could focus and still reach your target score. GMAT is not trying to test you that you should have 100% accuracy on all the topics. Rather, it's just about analyzing an overall performance that you have, right? So it's okay to let go of something if you're struggling with it. Don't waste a lot of your time on it. Don't take it as a challenge, to be honest. Does that answer?
Yes, that answers. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Ritu, you can go next.
Hey Gurvit, first of many congratulations on 755, and second, thank you so much for hosting the session. Really appreciate it. Given you have taken the GMAT Classic Edition, I'm someone who was preparing for Classic but was not able to take it. What we have seen and heard from many people is that, especially in verbal, people are struggling with timing because SE questions you were able to do, let's say, some of the SE questions you were able to do under 1 minute, right? But now in verbal, you have like long passages and you have CR as well. So did you also find that difficulty while taking the exam?
No, actually, I would spend a lot more time on sentence correction than CR and RC. So it was the other way around for me. In both the attempts, I had around 6 minutes left after I was done with review. So, but what I would suggest for this is probably you'd have to work more towards comprehending speed, right? For reading, read newspapers, and while you are reading it, try to comprehend what it says. Try to ensure that you don't have to read the same sentence twice. Probably meditation or something, so that you do not get distracted, so that you have to read each sentence again and again. While you are reading it, try to make a grasp of it. For something that was difficult, well, what I would do is I would translate it to my mother tongue, or I would translate it to an analogy that worked for me, something that was closer in terms of understanding for me. If it was a business term that I would not associate myself with, I would try to convert it to something that is familiar with me. So that is how I just went about things, right? Even the technical components or the technical terms that are mentioned in a sentence correct in a reading comprehension, I would just skip that. I would just abbreviate it A, B, C, D, whatever, and I would just go about it. So I would not waste time reading that. Instead, I would focus more on what is the general tone of it. Maybe read some editorials, make it a habit, and comprehend it along the reading. That's what I would suggest.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bhavik, you can go next.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hi Garvit. First of all, again, congratulations on your 755 score. Garvit, I am kind of in a similar situation like yours. I have given the classic GMAT 4 times. I have a score of 710. I had applied to schools as well, and I'm trying to convert certain schools where I'm waitlisted through the new GMAT, right? And I was kind of struggling with sentence correction and geometry, which are now kind of taken out. So just wanted to know from you that you mentioned once sentence correction was out, it really helped you in your examination. The new version. What according to you played the biggest role for your score improvement? And secondly, the DI section, because I believe it does have some bit of verbal and some bit of quant as well. So how did you navigate the DI? Because I'm kind of struggling there, not able to finish questions in time.
Got it. So to answer the first question, right? Know your strengths again. Know how much time each question would take for you. So with SC out, it helped me because SC would take a lot more time for me. CR and RC were my strengths. And again, with that repeated practice, it made me understand that while reading a particular passage, I would know that, okay, boss, this is the question that they would ask. While reading a CR, I know that this is the trap that they would give. Because most of the questions, if you have solved enough OG questions, right, you would find a pattern between them. You would know that in a particular assumption question, if you have made a mistake, you know that you fell in a trap. Have you understood what was the trap? You would not fall into the same trap again. So if you do that, that should suffice. For DI again, right? Like you said, it's a mix of both. But effectively, if you look at it, DI, it's 20 questions for 45 minutes. So they have given you more time per question than both the sections. So it's you need to know how you're able to manage your time over there. Let go of a DI question. I have done that multiple times. Even in a couple of mocks, right? I tried that. What if I skip the entire MSR and come back to it at the end? Because you have 3 questions that you could answer, you could alter, right? So that way I would know at the end that, okay, I have 8 minutes or 9 minutes to solve an entire MSR. Your DI is either it would have a basic quant questions like DS or looking at tables and graphs. Another thing, I believe that, like you said, you're unable to finish it on time, right? I have found that in DI, there's a lot of irrelevant information, especially for questions like tables, graphs, even in MSR. So read through it quickly, read the question, understand what it is that they're asking for, and then come back to the passage or the data that is given, and then try to answer the question. So skim through the available data. Maybe that could help you with your DI.
Got it. Thanks. Thank you so much, Garvit.
No worries.
Hey, Marcella, you can go next.
Hello, Garvit. Thank you for sharing. I have a question about data insights because you recommend like to acquire that guide. So what I find there is that the exercises are more related to data sufficiency, right? I couldn't find like exercises of the other multiple source, for example. Or are you referring to the web page where they have more exercises? Because I was looking for where to invest my time. Is it better to go for GMAT Club or to official but the web, or TTP also have some exercises, but I think they are kind of basic. So which would you recommend?
So to answer the first thing, right? Did you purchase the DIOG or are you referring the PDF that is shared?
Yeah, the PDF.
Okay, so you would have to purchase the DIOG, see if it's available in the geography that you are in, or try to purchase that OG or the focus OG from mba.com. Because the other set of questions that are available in DI, right? The MSR or two-part analysis, tables and graphs, these cannot be rendered on a printed page. These can be rendered on a screen. So for this, either you purchase a hard copy and there's a scratch code that comes on the inner cover. You can redeem that on mba.com and access those questions. If not, purchase it from directly from mba.com and try to access those questions. And at GMAT Club, for DI, I believe when I was doing it, only OG questions were available on GMAT Club. There were no other questions by any other test prep that was there on GMAT Club back then. So I don't know if TTP or other questions are available or if TTP's DI is better, but for me, just the OG sufficed.
Amazing. I have buy the test, the official mocks, the 6 ones. So I think that I should like buy for the guide. So it's different, right?
I didn't get the last part. Could you come again?
So to get to the exercises of the DI of this is like a different like kind of product I need to buy from GMAT.
Yeah,
besides the mock class, the mock.
$29. The DIOG and online set of questions is available for $29 on mb.com, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, any more questions? If someone wants to ask, we have some time. Yeah, go ahead, Nishant, please.
Yep, sorry, I was on mute. Garvit, how different is the DS part of the old edition quant versus the DS part of the DI in the focus edition in terms of, I mean, I know in terms of chapters, but in terms of the quality of question, the kind of question that come in. Yeah.
So the old one would have questions from true algebra as well, right? True arithmetic questions where they would ask you, is x greater than 0? And you would have to just read the two statements and see whether there are any edge cases where it is possible. For the focus edition, there is no true arithmetic questions. Everything is data that is given, right? Because the section is data insights. So there is the data that is given out to you in terms of somebody has given you that, okay, this is the principal amount for one particular loan that was there. For the other loan, there was this much principal amount. The interest that was paid after 10 years was so and so. Or the interest differed by so much, and for the time period that they give. Would the time period of loan one more than loan period of time period of loan two? So it would be more towards this. And I believe solving this was more easier than doing an arithmetic question and seeing are there any edge cases or any numbers or any boundaries under which a rule fails. So DS for DI is easier, but yeah, it is more towards stats or data.
Got it. Makes sense. Makes sense. Ashita, am I allowed to ask one more
Yeah,
question or should I?
go ahead. But I just wanted to interject with a follow-up question on that. Since the DS questions are part of DI, and I believe in DI we are allowed to use calculator. So the calculator remains even for the DS questions.
Yes, yes.
Also, I believe then the DS questions would have been modified suitably so that they're not just calculation based.
Yeah, the DS is the new DS, I believe, is easy and quick to solve than the older one because it's knowing whether there's the data that is missing from both the statements or whether these statements in itself suffice. So
Got it.
there's no calculation that you would have to do for a lot of questions. Like there would be somewhere, okay, you'll have to do, but again, without calculator, you can just do approximations to know whether you will be able to get an answer or not, because that is what DS is testing us on.
Right, perfect. Thank you. Please go ahead, Nishant.
Pretty strong with reading comprehension right from the beginning. But unfortunately, I am not. I mean, RC has been the way.
Sorry to interject. Your voice was not audible in the first part.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned that reading comprehension was your strongest. I mean, and you also when you used to solve like 4 or 5 questions in about 4 or 5 minutes. So my question is this: so how while you go through a reading comprehension passage, how do you actually decide? I mean, so my question is like, do you actually understand the entire passage, or do you just give a brief read and then when you go back and verify and eliminate as you look at the questions? And how do you manage to do this? Like, how do you manage to improve your speed basically while you do this? I mean, what I face is when I'm reading a passage like maybe on feminism or American history, 17th, 18th century, I'm not able to actually decide if I feel if this is actually important to be remembered when I go to the questions, or should I just kind of forget it and then focus on something else? This is my question. Yeah.
So I'll tell you, right, for questions with American history and American leaders and political movement and all, I would try to again use analogies or terms that are similar for me to understand. I would not get lost in the technicalities. Rather, I would focus more on keywords that are there, right? Because it's the keywords that help you understand what's the tonality of the passage. If suddenly something is going and then they say, however, so you know that the author or whoever is written the passage is trying to go in the other direction now. So that helps you navigate that there is something contradictory that is going to come. So then you can quickly read. So there are a lot of filler words that are also present, right? You need to understand what are those filler words, how you can skim through it. Like I said earlier, reading editorials will help you because editorials are written in a similar way. I believe the passages that I did, one of them, I think I was lucky because I had read it earlier in an editorial. It was a snippet of an editorial. So it does help, to be honest. It was a snippet of, I think, some business website.
Got it. Makes sense. Thank you.
Hey KSV, you can ask your question.
Hi, Garvit. It's Kirtana. I don't know It's Kirtana. That's my name. Hi, Garvit. We have met like on GMAT tribe. I've asked you a question about CR and everything. Hello. I was.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so I don't have any questions as such. I joined the session because I knew like I had a lot of sports to improve, and everyone actually asked the questions that I had in my mind. So that was quite covered. But I know during the process of my preparation, again, I will stumble upon questions where, and I believe at certain points I might we are just asking on behalf of everyone. Can we just text you personally and like just like ask you your suggestions and everything, or like if you're okay, some kind of one-on-one video calls, because I'm pretty sure not all of us will be here needing that kind of support.
Yeah, definitely, definitely you can do that. I'm doing all of this pro bono. That there are two people from GMAT tribe who I help with doubt solving on alternate days, and everything is pro bono. So don't worry about any prices or any charges, right? We
Oh,
in the same boat. I have been there once.
yeah, the GMAT is sort of, as you said, make it your friend, but whereas I am actually like, taking it head on. So that's happening with me.
Don't do that. Don't do that. I did that with my earlier attempts. I know the challenge that it faced, and that it was more about going down the same spiral, right? You feel that, boss, how did I not know this? How did I miss this? Instead, understanding that how did I do this error? What is it that I missed over here? Can I do some more questions and see if I am repeating the same thing? And it's not about you do the 5 questions on this right away, right? You do it over different periods of time just to see whether you are spotting that or not. Because if you do it right away, you know that you have to look at that glaring error and you know what is the right obvious choice. But if you do it over some time period that's spread out, I think that would help you.
That's helpful. Thank you, Garvit. I just wanted to ask that.
You're welcome.
Hey Ariel, you can go next.
Hi. So first, congrats on your score. I have a question regarding the TTP DI help. Like, I wonder how you find TTP helpful, especially in terms of DI and CR.
Hi Ariel. Sorry, I don't think I'll be able to answer that because I haven't used TTP at all. I have only referred
Okay.
the OG material. So any answer from me would be invalid.
Okay, so for DI in particular, did you find any notes to study, or you just learn by yourself to do the questions?
For DI, it was a self-study, to be honest, right? The questions are either tables, charts, DS, which was already a part of classic edition. Then you have two-part analysis, which is either a quant question or a CR question. The only thing that was new is MSR, which again is a mix of graphs and tables and data, similar to CR, right? So there's no strategy or something that was needed because everything to an extent is covered in your quant and verbal basics. Maybe time management is something that could help you, but if there's something that you struggle with, feel free to post it on your tribe. I or others would be very willing to help you out with your doubts.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey Marcella, you can ask your question.
Thank you. Garvit, I have like, at what stage would you think that after giving the official mock test, we can say that we are close to the score we should that in the same conditions get in the exam, the real exam? Like, because in GMAT, for example, the regular people say that you should like get 50 more points than what you want, or 40. But now you say, since the mocks are very accuracy or close to the real, would you say that is the same or not necessary?
Like I answered this earlier, focus mocks are quite close to the exam. In the 10 mocks that I've given for focus, in none of the mock I scored above 735. And
Okay.
I hope that answers.
Yeah, and one question that is that I have been looking for in internet to understand how the new focus GMAT scores, because like in the past you should I had this table where you have verbal and you have on the other side math, and you can like calculate how you're approaching to your score. So in the other in the new one, I understand that both of the three areas, they all weight the same. So it's just like a kind of simple average or what? Because I haven't understand that from internet information.
GMAT Club, the founder of GMAT Club has shared a calculator for it on GMAT Club. You could ask for
Oh,
it.
nice.
Yeah, you could ask for it on GMAT Tribe. Somebody could share the link with you, or you could search
I
for
will.
it. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank
You
you.
just search for focus calculator. You'd find it on GMAT Club.
Thank you.
Hey, Bhavik, you're up next.
Yeah. Garvit, you mentioned one point regarding the data sufficiency bit, in the classic and the new GMAT format, how the questions have changed or become comparatively, let's say, easier. What would be your feedback in terms or your observation for similarly for quant in terms of problem solving? Because the subject or the subcomponents of the quant are the same, and we are referring to the same kind of materials. So has the problem solving bit become more difficult or easier? And secondly, also for the verbal bit, the RC and CR, is the format or the type of questions same, or what changes, if any, if you have observed?
Okay, for verbal, I haven't observed any changes. Uh, for DS, I have already answered. For DS, I've already answered that. For problem solving, right, in quant, to an extent, I believe the difficulty level has slightly increased, not drastically. And I believe for that, the reason could be taking out DI inequality questions, right? They were true arithmetic questions, and they are usually on the higher difficulty end. And some of the geometry questions can be on the higher difficulty end. So if you're taking out higher difficulty questions, right, you'd have to balance them out with the existing syllabus that you have with difficult questions. So some of them get slightly tedious. And another thing that I found is, I think in focus, even if you do a couple of steps wrong, right? If you do initial step or the second last step or something, if you do a mistake in that, you would find an answer similar to what you have come to with the wrong calculation. So it is a huge trap that GMAT plays in with the focus edition, is that you would feel confident that the answer that you have arrived to is the answer that is available, and you might make a mistake over there. So with every step that you are doing your calculation, be very calculative, be very cautious, and yeah, to just be attentive.
Got it. And when we talk about 21 questions just on problem solving, because earlier there were 31 questions where, kind of 16 to 18 questions of problem solving, and the balance were DS. Now, more questions being available for problem solving, do you feel more components are being covered, a diverse set of components?
It's the same thing, right? The syllabus hasn't changed as much. Earlier, they would ask you 18 questions or so from problem solving, and now only 3 more questions have increased. And only geometry questions, for a reason, have been removed from the problem solving as well, right? So the syllabus or the distribution has not changed drastically. It remains the same.
Got it. So except from DI, the rest of the material, if someone who has already given the classic one and has those resources, they can continue to use them, right, and practice them.
I have only purchased the Focus OG, and the reason that I purchased is to access the IR questions on MBA.com. Otherwise, Focus PDFs were available on the Tribe, and 22 OG and its reviews, I had purchased it earlier before I was a part of the Tribe. So this Tribe has been helpful if I had joined it earlier, but yeah. I think your classic material for verbal and for quant would suffice very easily.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Hey, Krishna, you're up next.
Hi, Garvit. Firstly, congratulations on your score. Thank you for doing this. And my question is to do with the day of the exam. So you mentioned that you got to a point where you had 5 minutes of time left and you were already done with all the questions. So my question to you is how best to utilize that? How did you go about the last 5 minutes? Uh, did you go back to the questions that you left for review, or how, just if you can just walk us through that?
So what I did was questions that I definitely had to go for review were bookmarked. Focus edition gives you an option to bookmark a question. You can bookmark as many questions. For questions where I felt that maybe I should come back to this if I have time, I just noted it down because I did not want to confuse at the end that whether this was a bookmark question or just a question that I wanted to refer again if I have time. So it was just about utilizing that. And if I was left with time, I would not use it to go back on questions or spend extra minute on questions where I had doubt, because maybe I would fall in a trap. So I would try to avoid it as much as I could, because it's about going with your gut, right? The more you see a particular question, chances are you would make an error or you would fall in a trap.
Understand. That helps. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Krishna. Any more questions, guys? Nishant, you can go up. Thanks.
So, following the OG, you also, reading comprehension and critical reasoning was split between.
Nishant, your voice is not very audible. Can you just
Just a minute, just a minute. Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So while you did the OG, reading comprehension and critical reasoning is kind of split between the two, and same is the case for DI as well. So did you practice any kind of sectional tests for verbal, like mixed bag?
I did not get your question, Nishant. Sorry.
Okay, I'll just type it, and I think there's a network issue. I'll just type my question in the chat.
No, I did not understand your question. I could hear it. I did not understand it.
Okay, so my question is, did you solve any kind of mixed bag questions in verbal, like quant plus, sorry, RC plus CR together? So what I face a major problem when I'm solving the mixed bag questions, and I don't want to use the mock exams to kind of test it. So like RC separately and CR separately is what available in the OG. So how did you manage to do mixed bag of questions, like both of them together?
I did not do a mixed bag of questions for them, but if that's something that you would be interested in, I would suggest what you could do is you could purchase the OG from Amazon. It would be under 1,000 rupees, and you could again just redeem the code that's available on mb.com, and over there you would have the option to mix bag those questions that you want and practice them as you like. So
okay, makes sense.
instead of using mocks, like I guess each mock is some 10-15K, right? If I'm not mistaken. No, sorry.
It's like 4K, I guess. 3-4K.
4K, right? Instead of that, if you just spend $1,000 and you'll be able to do what you want.
Correct, makes sense. Thank you.
Otherwise, you could also use GMAT Club, right? GMAT Club consistently gives you their what's it called? Forum quiz. Yeah. You could use the forum quiz where you could simulate that pattern again, what you want, what mixed bag questions do you want, from what source do you want, and probably you could use that as well. I don't think that's too costly, but yeah, maybe you could just go away, go do it instead of just doing from one OG. You could do it for all the questions from all the OGs.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I was about to add that the forum quiz feature in GMAT Club, that's really helpful, and you can filter based on topics and difficulty level, like, create your own mixed bag question sets and practice. So give that a shot. Any other questions? If not, we can just close. So any closing remarks, Garvit? I think we've covered most of it, but anything else you might want to add? Last thoughts.
Just same, like quality over quantity, and make GMAT your friend. Understand the GMAT approach. That's it. That's the key to getting done with GMAT. And don't struggle with it, because trust me, GMAT score is one of the multiple factors that an admissions committee looks at. So it's not a make or break.
Yeah, and absolutely true. Having gone through the same journey myself, I can totally, second your views on this. And thank you so much for your time and being so patient with all the questions and offering to help all the members offline as well. It's really nice of you. Akshay, any closing remarks?
No, I think you've summed it up pretty well. I think thank you so much for taking time out. And this is just like an unrelated question, but like, with a score like this, pretty much from a score perspective, this has pretty much opened doors for pretty much any business school in the world. What are your target schools
More than open
with
doors,
this?
it created a confusion, I'll be honest. Earlier, the dream school was always NCR, which still is, but I was only targeting Booth or Kellogg in US. There were no other schools that I was targeting, but now I will be open to Wharton and Columbia because of their consulting roles as well. So that's the only change that it has brought. I would still want it to be an NCR admit, but fingers crossed.
Perfect. I think wishing you the very best from the side, from all of us. I think you inspired so many of us here, and looking forward to getting your admit soon too as well.
Thank you, and thanks to the tribe. To be honest, after joining the tribe, I was able to get more insights. Right, earlier I would just refer GMAT Club. I would not even read other discussions or threads over it. Right, but after joining this, I got to know that there's something TTP that exists. But before that, I had no idea about it. I was just in my OGs and all. I did not know about anything else outside of OG. So it does open a lot of avenues as well. Thanks for having this community over here.
As admins, I think Ashton and I couldn't wish for anything more than to hear that it helped all of us, like everyone with their respective journeys and just getting through it together. Yeah. Thank you for saying that as well. And on that note, also a thank you to everyone else who stayed till the very end. This was quite a long session, like a very insightful long session. So all the best to all of you as well, and hoping this year turns out the way you want it to be. And we will see you around in the upcoming sessions as well. And all the very best in your journeys.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Thanks for joining, and good luck to Galvit and all of you for your dream admits in the coming year.
Good luck, everyone.
Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.